Thank you for your opinions about the Extinction Rebellion protest, the climate protesters. They say they're going to shift to political negotiations now after nearly 1,000 arrests have taken place. And I just wondered if you support the climate protesters who've brought parts of the country, particularly the capital, to a halt with their pink boat and all the rest of it, and various bridges and key points in the capital grinding to a halt because they have said, look, this is all we can do. We've just got to make people, and politicians in particular, sit up and take notice by doing something dramatic. Do you support them in what they've been doing or not? Linda in York, good morning. She says, hello, I do believe in freedom of speech. The powers that be aren't taking notice of the general public, the things that the general public are concerned about. The earth, says Linda, is on loan to us all to live our lives out. We should all do our best to keep it that way for future generations. What choice, asked Linda, what choice do people have to make their views clear if voting doesn't work fast enough to halt what is going on? Do you side with Linda on this or not? Give me a call, or we can do what she's done and send me a text. It's 0800 111 4840.
BBC Radio York.
BBC Radio with Jonathan Cowap on a bank holiday Monday at 18 minutes to 11. Nick's got the latest news for us, of course, at 11 o'clock. Yeah, just interested to know this morning about whether or not you think the climate protesters have been doing the right thing, bringing the capital to a halt, but certainly drawing attention to the issues that they care about. They think they are passionate about, and they think that the rest of us ought to be passionate about as well. Richard Claxton is an Extinction Rebellion campaigner who is based in Yorkshire and is actually with us on the line now. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
Just explain, if you would, for those who've not really cottoned onto it. People have probably been aware that something rather significant has been going on, particularly in the capital over the last few days, though we have seen national protests before now. What exactly is the concern of the people from Extinction Rebellion who've been out on the streets?
Well, our concern is that we have now, in the world, entered a period of abrupt climate breakdown and are in the midst of a mass extinction. And if we continue to ignore the current environmental situation, we are going to experience an unprecedented level of disruption within our lifetimes. When scientists and broadcasters such as David Attenborough are talking about the breakdown of our society and civilization, possibly within decades, because of food shortages and water shortages and the warfare that those kind of shortages can prompt, then we are really in dangerous, uncharted waters, and drastic times call for drastic action.
Well, yeah, and some people have said, OK, take drastic action, but for goodness sake, for the last umpteen days, numerous people around the capital and presumably further afield as well, those who've been trying to travel around London, have experienced massive inconvenience. Maybe it's cost the nation millions of pounds in delays, people who've abandoned meetings, haven't been able to get from A to B. Is it really right and proper for a group of people who may be absolutely genuine in their concerns, but to take that sort of unilateral decision that is what they will do?
Well, the last thing we want to do is cause inconvenience and disruption for people. And, we have been apologising to people in the capital for the disruption that has been caused. But we really feel we are in the last chance saloon on climate change. And experience shows us that more conventional methods of campaigning have failed. Politics has failed. Governments around the world have failed. Our climate is starting possibly to spiral out of control, and this is going to mean devastation for people around the world.
It's a very, very bleak message that you pass on, and it's not a message that everybody accepts. For one, the President of the United States of America, but there are perhaps more credible voices than the cynical Mr. Trump around who are not quite so sure that things are as devastating, as apocalyptic as you suggest. But you are convinced that really we are at a turning point.
Absolutely we are. We can't keep our heads in the sand on this. We have to take action now. We've only got between 10 and 12 years, perhaps, if we're lucky, to take drastic action on climate change. We have already experienced 1.1 degrees of warming over pre-industrial levels, and we're already seeing some really significant climate impacts and extreme weather events around the world, which are causing misery to millions of people. Now, as things stand, we only have a 1% chance of hitting 1.5 degrees, which is the aim of the Paris Agreement. We've only got a 5% chance of hitting 2 degrees, which is the Paris target. Now, we don't know when things start to spiral out of control with climate, but we are living in a very, very dangerous situation.
Do you think the time will come when we will see a repetition of the kind of Extinction Rebellion protests, or maybe protests by other groups who are concerned about the environment, about climate change? Do you think we will actually see them happen in other parts of the UK? Because it's been very much London-centric for the past week.
I do believe we will, because the message we were getting from members of the public in Parliament Square, where I was this week, is that people have been inspired to take up the call for action on climate change, and people have said that they do want to join us. We've been recruiting lots of people during the past week, and people have groups around the UK. And we really do need to take this issue massively seriously, because politics is failing us on climate.
Richard Claxton, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Richard, who is an Extinction Rebellion campaigner based in East Yorkshire, as it turns out. Do you take on board his message that actually, you know, the clock is at 1 minute to midnight when it comes to the climate, and actually, no matter how much inconvenience, no matter how much disruption is caused, it really is vital for people of goodwill and people with concern for the planet to do something, and do something quickly? Let's go to the phones, and Stephen is on the line from Strensall. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning.
What do you think? Have they been doing the right thing in causing the disruption that they've caused, or not?
No, I don't think so. It's getting up everybody's back and everything. We all know about this global warming. They should have taken the political side first instead of demonstrating like they have.
The concern, of course, has been that without doing something like this, that politicians will just carry on in their own sweet way, ignoring the issue, hoping that it will somehow magically go away. And the Extinction Rebellion people have said, no, we've had enough of that. We've got to actually take some action that you know, really draws attention to the issue and makes politicians do something.
Well, if people think that, well, it is getting worse, the earth is getting warmer, then it's up to the voter to vote the person in who's going to back all this restriction of burning the carbons. So it's up to the common people just to go out and vote instead of sitting at home and not voting like they seem to be doing.
Well, I mean, you could say that the Extinction Rebellion people have taken their passion for the subject to the streets to make it absolutely clear to everybody, to the politicians and to the rest of us, how devastating they think the threat is. Do you not admire them for that?
I admire them for it, but I don't agree with the disruption they're doing, because it's not getting the politicians, it's just the common people that are being disrupted. And if they want people to back them, then they should do it orderly, which they probably have done because there's been no fighting. But like Marble Arch, just go to the Marble Arch and demonstrate there. They don't have to do it in the streets where people are, because that will just put people against them all the time.
Stephen, thanks for your thoughts this morning. Stephen on the line from Strensall. If you have an opinion, do you back the Extinction Rebellion protest? Are you saying good on you, or do you look and tut and say, hang on a minute, is it quite fair to be doing what you're doing and, you know, have done in London, and as we've just heard from Richard Claxton, may well do in other parts of the country in the weeks and months to come? Your thoughts, very welcome. 0800 111 48 49, and it's something we'll chat to our opinion panellists about in around about 40 minutes' time. Traffic and travel news for the bank holiday on its way from David James in around about 5 minutes' time. Before we get there, though, this absolute classic, Soul City Walk from Archie Bell and the Drells.